It all started with a simple message in the family group chat. I was lying in a New York City emergency room, texting my family I'm at the hospital. Urgence surgerie. Please pick me up later. Then there was silence. Finally, my mom, Barbara, wrote, "Stop being so dramatic. Don't ruin our trip to Cancun." That's when I knew it was time to change things. My name is Anna Miller. I'm 29. I work at a marketing agency in Midtown Manhattan. Nothing fancy. But it's enough to live on. Or, it would be, if it weren't for my family. Since I was a kid, I was the oldest and the responsible one. Lisa and Anthony, my younger siblings, are 24 and 25. And somehow, their problems always became mine. It started back in high school. My parents were always complaining about being short on cash. Lisa needed new sneakers, and Anthony needed a math tutor. So, I, a naive 16-year-old, got a part-time job at Walmart, working as a cashier after school and on weekends. At first, I thought it was temporary, but things only got worse in college. I studied economics at a state university, paying my own way and working as a waitress on the side to send money home. Meanwhile, Lisa and Anthony were growing up spoiled. They got new smartphones every year, clothes from stores like Forever 21, and always had money for entertainment. I was the oldest, so I had to help. After college, their expectations only grew. Anthony took out a loan for a Chevy Cruze. Guess who paid for it when he was temporarily unemployed? Lisa rented a room in a shared apartment in the East Village and regularly forgot to transfer her share of the rent. Not to mention their credit cards, which they maxed out like it was a game. Then cried to me on the phone. "Anna, help me with the interest. It's piling up. And mom and dad can't help." My parents' mortgage on a 3-bedroom house in a Chicago suburb was also a monthly check from my bank account. A whopping $770 USD. It's temporary, my dad would say. 3 years later, it still was. But I didn't complain. Family is family. Right. That Tuesday started like any other. I was at my desk at my office in a high-rise building on Park Avenue, finishing a presentation for a big client. I needed to impress them. Then, a sharp pain struck me in my lower right abdomen. I thought it was just a bad salad from the office cafeteria. But the pain grew, throbbing like a corkscrew. By lunchtime, I was nauseous. I barely made it to the restroom when my coworker, Sarah from accounting, found me, pale and clutching the sink. "Anna, what's wrong? You look awful," she said. "Alarmit. It's nothing. I must have eaten something bad," I said, but another wave of pain doubled me over. "That's it. I'm calling an ambulance." No. No. "I'll be fine," I insisted, hobbling back to my desk. I managed to send the presentation to my manager, but at 9 a.m., the pain was so intense, I fell onto the table. It hurt to breathe, and I couldn't think. Sarah called 911 without a second thought. The paramedics arrived in about 15 minutes. A young man and a woman in her 50s checked my stomach and blood pressure and exchanged worried glances. "It looks like acute appendicitis," the doctor said. "We're taking you to Mount Sinai Hospital immediately." I was shaking in the ambulance, a mix of pain and fear. I had never had surgery before. Everything moved quickly in the emergency room: tests, CT scans, and an examination by Dr. Peterson, a gray-haired surgeon with tired eyes. "Anna, you have acute appendicitis. We need to operate immediately. It could burst and lead to peritonitis, which is very dangerous." "How long will I be here?" I asked. "At least 3 days. You'll need help for the first few days at home after." "Do you have any relatives?" "Of course," I said. A whole crowd. In the pre-op room, they gave me my phone to call my family. My hands trembled as I opened our group chat with my mom, Dad, Lisa, and Anthony. I typed a message. "Hi everyone. I'm at the hospital. Mount Sinai. Acute appendicitis. Going into surgery now. I'll be here for about 3 days. They said I'll need help at home. I'll send the address later." I hit send and waited. No response. The nurse, Lydia, took my phone. "We have to go now. Your family can call the hospital if anything happens." I woke up in the ward and immediately asked for my phone. The nurse handed it to me. "The surgery went great. The doctor said you were lucky you came in when you did." "Thank you." "Did anyone call?" I asked. "Hopeful. Yes. A few people from your work called to wish you well. Not my family." With trembling fingers, I opened WhatsApp. New messages in the family chat. Lisa had replied 2 hours after my message. "Anna, you're so dramatic. Kids get appendectomies all the time. Honestly, what a bad time. We're just about to board our flight to Cancun." "Anthony agreed, sis. We've been planning this trip for 6 months. The Hyatt Ziva. We can't cancel it because of an appendix. But my mom's message was the one that hit me hardest. Anna. Stop throwing a fit. Getting an appendix out is like having a tooth pulled. Don't ruin our vacation with your drama. We'll be back in a week. Then we'll talk. Get well soon. I just stared at the screen. Tears blurring my vision. All I could do was lie there. I checked my phone every half hour for 3 days. But there was only silence. I felt everything at once the time I paid. Lisa's fine for causing a drunken scene. The car repairs after Anthony crashed his cruise. And the $2. 200 USD he loaned my mom for her dental implants. Now they were sipping cocktails in Cancun while I was alone. On the 3rd day, a woman from the billing office, Anna Peters, came to my room. Anna Miller. We need to discuss payment. You have health insurance from work. A family plan. Correct. Yes. That's right. I said. Well, your insurance covered part of it. But you have a remaining balance of $1. $100. What? How I have the maximum plan with a $10. $0 estadounidenses hospitalization limit. Anna shuffled through her papers. The limit has been reached. It's strange. An appendectomy doesn't usually exceed this. Did any of your relatives have any serious treatments recently? I felt a twinge in my gut. I checked my bank account. Imayren. $100 was almost all my vacation savings. So long. Cancun trip. Okay. I'll pay. Please send me a detailed statement. That night, my phone rang. It was my best friend. Kathy. Anna. What the heck? Why didn't you tell me you were having surgery? Tears welled up in my eyes. I didn't want to bother anyone. Don't bother anyone. Where's your family? She asked. They're in Cancun. They said they couldn't cancel their trip over an appendix. There was a long silence. How are you getting home? Who's going to look after you? I'll take an Uber. I'll manage. No way. My husband, Alex, and I are picking you up tomorrow. Don't even think about arguing. The next morning, Dr. Peterson gave me the all clear. Kathy and Alex arrived with flowers, magazines, and a bag full of groceries. You're so Polly, Alex said, helping me into the car. On the way home, I broke down and told them everything. The years of financial support, the group chat, and how they had treated me. Are you serious? Kathy asked. Furious. They're using you like an ATM. They're not a family, they're parasites. Back at my apartment, Kathy took charge. Alex and I will take turns staying here. We'll cook and help with the housework. You won't be left alone. On the 3rd day of my recovery, I called my health insurance provider. I need an itemized statement for my depleted allowance. The operator put me on hold, then returned. Anna Miller. I see a problem here. The day of your surgery, a large request was processed liposuction for your sister, Lisa Miller, for a total of $4. $400. This exceeded the annual family policy limit. It was a blow to the head. While they were removing my appendix, my sister used my insurance money to get cosmetic surgery. She literally spent my emergency medical funds on a new body. I want to make changes to my policy. I said, my voice shaking. Immediately remove Lisa Miller, Anthony Miller, and my parents from the family plan. I want to switch to an individual plan, effective at the beginning of next month. After I hung up, I opened my banking app. For years, I had automatic payments set up for my family. I canceled the $770 USD monthly transfer for my parents' mortgage. Then the automatic payments for Lisa's rent and Anthony's car loan. It felt like I was cutting the ropes that had held me for years. A few days later, my mom called. Anna. Darling. How are you? Your friend Kathy called me. And she was really upset. People are calling us, asking awkward questions. They think we abandoned you. I need you to explain that everything was fine. That you handled it perfectly. No. I said. What do you mean? No, I won't lie. To cover up your shame. You abandoned me. Don't be dramatic. You're fine now, she cried. That's not the point. Mom, fix the situation yourself. I hung up. An hour later, my phone exploded with messages from Lisa and Anthony. What the hell are you doing? You ruined our entire vacation. I turned my phone face down. Enough. 2 days later, my parents, Lisa, and Anthony were at my door. Having cut their trip short, they stormed into my apartment. We need to talk. My dad began. About this letter from the insurance company. We were excluded from the family plan. And what about my car payment? What kind of cruel revenge is this? I sank onto the couch. This isn't revenge. This is reality. You didn't even ask how I was feeling. You immediately started talking about money. We're your family, my mom screamed. Where were you 6 days ago when I was alone in the hospital? We were on vacation. We couldn't just leave everything behind. Lisa shrieked. And I could leave everything behind for you when Anthony crashed his car, when you had to be picked up from the police station, when you needed money for school. Rent. The mortgage. That's different. My mom insisted. What's different? Because you're the oldest. You have to. That's exactly it. I always have to. And you know why I took you off my insurance? Lisa. While they were removing my appendix, you were using my insurance money to get liposuction. I had to pay an extra $1. $100. Because you used up the entire allowance. Lisa turned red. It was an important operation. I've been planning it for 6 months. More important than your stupid appendicitis. More important than your sister's life. I silently opened my laptop and showed them the canceled automatic payments. Congratulations. Now you'll have plenty of time to figure out how to pay for everything yourselves. The screaming began. My dad yelled about betrayal. My mom sobbed that I was ruining the family. And my siblings accused me of ruining their lives. I screamed back, "Get out of my apartment. Now. Or I'm calling the police." My father hissed. "You wouldn't dare." I picked up the phone and started dialing 911. They left. But my mom turned in the doorway. "Will you regret this?" "Anna. Is family all you have?" "No." I replied. "Family is all you had. And you lost it." A week later, my Aunt Gail called. "Anna. Dear. I heard you were in the hospital. Your parents are telling everyone you had a nervous breakdown and are making up stories. But I don't believe them." I told her everything, sending screenshots and documents as proof. She was horrified and called the rest of our relatives, who, in turn, called me to apologize. Anthony had to move back in with my parents. He couldn't afford his rent and car loan. He ended up selling his Chevy and buying a cheap used car. Lisa couldn't pay her rent either and had to move in with a friend. My parents had to find full-time jobs again. It's amazing how quickly everything fell apart once I stopped sponsoring them. I felt a little guilty at first. But then I remembered how they left me alone in the hospital. And the guilt disappeared. A year later, my mom called. "Anna. It's Mom. I need your help. I need a sinus lift. And our insurance doesn't cover it. It's only $2. $200. Please. Anna. You can't just abandon your family." "I'm not abandoning you." I said. "I'm doing the exact same thing you did to me. This is different. You were fine. I needed you. And you left me alone after emergency surgery. Now you need me. And I'm leaving you alone with your dental problems. We were wrong. Can't you forgive me?" "I forgive you. But I won't help you. There's a difference." I hung up and blocked her number. That was 6 months ago. They haven't called since. And frankly, my life has never been better. I used to worry about money constantly. But now I have a real savings account. I even got a promotion at work. My friends, Kathy and Alex, have noticed the changes. "You seem lighter," Kathy said, "like you finally took off a heavy backpack you've been carrying for years." She's right. I feel lighter. Freer. For so many years, I was the family ATM, their emergency service, and their problem solver. I sacrificed my dreams and peace of mind for people who didn't even send me a message when I had surgery. Now, for the first time, I'm living for myself. I'm saving for a down payment on a condo, and considering a master's degree, I can take a vacation anywhere I want. And I don't have to ask anyone's permission or worry about paying other people's bills. That day in the hospital, my family taught me an important lesson. People will treat you the way you allow them to. For years, I let them take and take and take, thinking that was love. But true love is never one-sided. It shows up when you need it most. And setting boundaries isn't betrayal, it's self-care. Second story, my son-in-law gave me a mop and said, "So that I will not forget what I have done for the rest of my life." After that, for my retirement celebration, my son-in-law gave me a mop in front of the whole family and told me not to forget what I'd been doing all my life. Everyone laughed, including my daughter. A week later, I made a statement that made us both cry. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and leave any comments. Your support helps us grow the channel and share even more stories with you. Enjoy listening. Eleanor Ellie Johnson stood by the kitchen window, sadly gazing out at the snow-covered yard. 42 years. That's how long she'd worked as a janitor at Northwood High School. It was an impressive number. But for some reason, it left her feeling empty inside. Tomorrow was her last day before the holidays. And then retirement would begin. "Mom, are you ready?" Lena peered into the kitchen, adjusting her earrings. "The guest will be arriving soon." "I'm ready," Ellie lead. Though inside, she felt an incomprehensible unease. Her daughter was dressed up and looked absolutely gorgeous. Lena had always had a knack for presenting herself. Ever since school, she graduated with honors from the State University's business program, worked in corporate administration, and could have gone far if not for her husband, Andrew. The apartment was sparkling clean. The table set to perfection. Crystal glasses, the kind only brought out for special occasions, were on display. Homemade deviled eggs, a classic green bean casserole, and a baked turkey. Lena had put in the effort. It was obvious. Where's Kevin? Ellie asked, referring to her grandson. He's spending the night at a friend's. Her daughter smiled apologetically. He said, adult get-togethers are boring. Don't be offended. Mom? Ellie nodded. It was a shame. Of course. Kevin was the only joy in this family. He's a smart kid, taking after his grandfather. Her late husband. Thank God. Not after that half-baked electrician. The first to arrive were the neighbors. Aunt Rachel from next door, and Val from the 4th floor. Then colleagues from the school arrived. The principal, Ms. Morgan. The other janitor, Lucy. And the security guard, Mr. Jones. They all brought flowers and gifts for their dear Ellie. Andrew proposed a toast, raising his glass of whiskey. To a woman who worked honestly her entire life. Ellie winced. She hated her son-in-law's habit of spouting beautiful words he himself didn't believe. The table was buzzing with laughter and stories about school. Lucy was telling me about the new cleaning equipment they'd bought. And do you remember, Ellie, how we scraped paint off the floor after the renovations? She laughed. The contractors, damn, worked like pigs. Of course I remember. Ellie sighed. My knees hurt for a month afterward. Andrew had managed to drink a fair amount that evening and was becoming increasingly brazen. Ellie saw her son-in-law glance sideways at her. He was about to say something. It was always like this. He'd get drunk and start making sarcastic remarks. Lena tolerated it all, even sticking up for him. Well, mother-in-law, he said suddenly, clapping his hands. Now you can rest from your laborious exploits. In honor of this special occasion, I've prepared a surprise for you. Andrew. What are you thinking of? Lena smiled warily. Well, here's the thing. The man stood up, staggering, and carried a long package out of the hallway. I have a special gift for our newly minted retiree. Ellie unwrapped the package and gasped. She found herself holding a mop, a regular household mop with a synthetic head. This is so you don't forget what you've been all your life and don't lose your touch, Andrew announced loudly, his voice full of malice. By the way, our doors are always open to you. If you want to mop the floors, you're welcome. A deathly silence fell over the table. Lucy choked on her salad. Ms. Morgan stared at her plate. And then a chuckle rang out. First from Rachel, the neighbor. Then from the others, the awkward, forced laughter of people who didn't know how to react. Lena, her own daughter, whom she raised alone, for whom she didn't sleep at night, laughed too. Andrew, you're something else? She giggled. Mom, don't be offended. It's just a joke. Ellie sat with the mop in her hands and felt everything inside her turn to ice. The woman got up at 5:30 in the morning, went to school, washed floors, cleaned bathrooms, and wiped boards. And in the evenings, she went to her sick mother, then her aunt, then her godmother. All her life, she cared for someone, pulled someone along. For the sake of her daughter, she gave up college. For the sake of her family, she didn't pursue a career. And what happened in the end? A mop as a gift, to the laughter of her own child. Thank you, she said quietly. Very original. The guests left around midnight. Ellie mechanically cleared the table and put the dirty dishes in the sink. Lena helped, very nervous, and constantly glancing at her mother. Mom, you know Andrew was just joking. Her daughter finally couldn't take it anymore. He didn't mean to be mean. Of course, Ellie responded. I'll go to bed. In her room, she sat on the bed and stared at the wall. Old photographs stood on the dresser. Her mother, her Aunt Clara, her godmother, Emily, all were already dead. All the people to whom she had dedicated her life. Her mother had been young when she was diagnosed with an incurable disease. Ellie was 18 then. She had just finished high school and was planning to study teaching. But her mother fell ill, needing money for treatment. She had to go to work. She found a job as a janitor at the same school where she studied. The salary was small, but steady. Her mother held out for 4 years. Ellie took her to doctors, bought expensive medications, and took her to New York for consultations several times. All in vain. Soon after, Mom died, leaving her a 2-bedroom apartment in a good neighborhood, and a sense of guilt that still gnawed at her. Perhaps if they'd noticed her sooner. If they'd taken her to a different doctor. A year later, Aunt Clara, her mother's sister, fell ill. They had to endure the same story hospitals, Medications. Endless procedures. The aunt was alone. She had no one but her niece. 5 years of struggle. 5 years of hope. And then defeat again. Ellie. The aunt whispered before she died. You're an angel. You gave your whole life to others. The aunt also left her a 2-bedroom apartment as an inheritance. And then there was the eternal question. Was the treatment correct? Was everything done? When her godmother Emily fell ill 3 years later, Ellie already knew this scenario by heart. The woman took the longest to die. Almost 7 years. By then, Ellie had given birth to Lena and was raising her alone. The girl's father had abandoned them and fled. Work. A sick godmother. A small child. Life had become a vicious circle. Emily Stevens. The local doctor said, at your age, and with such a diagnosis. Doctor. What if you try a new medicine? Ellie didn't give up. It says here that she was in Europe, but Europe was far away. And the godmother died in a municipal hospital. Clutching her niece's hand. After the funeral, the woman discovered she was the owner of a 3-bedroom apartment and a country house in upstate New York. The lawyer read the will. And she sat there, unsure what to do with it all. She had grown accustomed to living modestly, taking the bus to work, and buying clothes on sale. When Lena got married, it was natural to give the young family the apartment her godmother had inherited. She had earned it a high-scoring diploma, a good job in administration, and promising prospects. Her husband, however, wasn't so great. An electrician with no ambitions. But what could she do? 5 years later, her daughter came asking for the country house. Mom, we want to start a family. Lena explained. Kevin needs fresh air. And Andrew wants to take care of the garden. Of course. Ellie said then. Take it. And 2 years later, her daughter suggested renting out the remaining 2-bedroom apartment. Mom, why let the apartment sit empty? We'll split the rent. You spend it on the renovations, and we spend it on Kevin. It's high time you upgraded. Ellie wanted to object, but she looked at her grandson and agreed. But somehow the money never reached her. Lena always found an explanation. Either Kevin needed a special class, or Andrew needed new tools, or the car needed repairs. But the repairs never happened. Now, sitting with this stupid mop, Ellie saw her life clearly for the first time in many years. For 42 years, she had given herself to others. First to her female relatives, then to her daughter's family, and what did she get in return? A taunt in front of the guests, and, in essence, a fair remark. She had truly been a servant all her life. But now something had changed. Maybe it was age. Maybe it was fatigue. But she no longer wanted to accept it. Over breakfast, Lena tried to smooth over yesterday's awkwardness. Mom, let's go to the mall today and buy you something for your retirement. No need. Ellie replied curtly. I have things to do. For the first time in many years, she felt an unfamiliar resignation to fate. And something akin to anger. A cold, rational anger. The first thing she did was go to a real estate agency. The young realtor listened and whistled. Ma'am, you're sitting on a fortune. That 2-bedroom apartment downtown is worth at least $200. 0, 0, 0. Now. And the 3-bedroom apartment where your daughter lives would cost $300. Ling ling ling. A house in upstate New York isn't cheap either. The plot is large, and utilities are connected. And I have the documents for all of this. Ellie said thoughtfully. I just gave them permission to live there. I didn't give it to them. Oh. So you didn't draw up a deed of gift. The girl perked up. Well then. It's all in your hands. Who's the owner according to the documents? You. Then you can sell it, evict them, or do whatever you want with the property at any time. Ellie nodded, mentally calculating. The numbers came out to be astronomical. And all this time she'd been scrimping on every penny, wearing out her old clothes. She didn't even realize what a treasure she held in her hands. Her next stop was the management company's office, where she found out the real rent for her aunt's apartment. The figure turned out to be twice the one Lena had quoted. So, her daughter was simply deceiving her. That evening, over dinner, Ellie decided to conduct an experiment. Lena, how much are they giving us for the 2-bedroom apartment these days? It's mere pennies. Mom, about $350 a month. Tops. Barely enough to cover Kevin's needs. I see. Andrew was fiddling with his phone, not participating in the conversation. After yesterday, her son-in-law was quieter than usual. But Ellie saw satisfaction in his eyes. The next day, she went to her school to say her official goodbyes. Principal Morgan greeted her very warmly. Ellie, what will we do without you 42 years? That's quite a feat. Ms. Morgan, tell me honestly, have I really been just a janitor all these years? What kind of question is that? Half the teachers came to you for advice. And how many children have you set on the right path? Remember Mike Smith, he still asks about you. He says you saved him. Ellie recalled the troubled teenagers she'd sheltered in her office. The girls she'd helped with their studies. The boys she'd steered away from bad company. And no one at home knew or cared. I know a journalist at the local newspaper. The principal continued. Maybe you'll meet. She's preparing a series of materials about veterans of education. You definitely have something to share. Ellie promised to think about it. On the way home, the woman stopped at Barnes & Noble and bought some Maya Angelou poetry and a travel magazine. Just for fun. But an unpleasant surprise awaited her when she got home. Lena was sitting in the kitchen, her eyes full of tears. Mom, Andrew's been laid off at work. They're downsizing. Where can he look for work now at his age? It's a nightmare. Ellie put the kettle on and silently laid the groceries on the table. Mom, are you listening? Things are going to be really tough for us now. It's good that we have roommates. Otherwise, I don't know how we'd cope. And where's Andrew? He's gone to see some friends. Upset. Saying, maybe we should move to the country house for good. At least we can start our own farm there. Ellie nodded. So now they were going to stay in her house forever, living off the income from her apartment. And she could be content with her janitor's pension and admire the mop her son-in-law had given her. No. Enough was enough. The next morning, Ellie rose early and went to a legal clinic. The elderly lawyer listened attentively to her story and shook his head. Ellie, you understand that you're essentially supporting adults. They live in your apartment, use your home, and even receive income from your property. So at least you realize how wrong this is for you. Your daughter and your son-in-law. The woman remained silent. She had no answer to that question. Want my advice? Gather the documents. Eviction notices. And rental claims. Everything is legal. You have all the rights. The property is yours. Ellie took the lawyer's business card and promised to think about it. The atmosphere at home was tense. For some reason, Lena and her family still hadn't left. Despite her promise, Andrew sat gloomy, studying job postings. The daughter was bustling about in the kitchen, sighing every now and then. Kevin rushed home from school and immediately locked himself in his room. Mom. The daughter approached her. Could you, well? Anyway, we're really tight right now. Maybe you could lend us your savings. And we'll pay you back later. Why do you need my savings? What do you mean? Why you have to pay off your loans? Feed yourself with your bones. Mom, we're a family. Family. Ellie remembered how this family had laughed at her 3 days ago. No. She replied calmly. What do you mean? No, Lena asked in disbelief. Just like that. No. That evening, a scandal erupted. Andrew, apparently having learned of the refusal, came to settle the matter man to man. Listen, mother-in-law. He began with feigned good nature. We've been discussing this. And basically, maybe it's time for you to go to a retirement home. There they'll look after you, treat you, and we'll take your apartments into good hands and use the proceeds to support you. Ellie slowly turned to her son-in-law. Repeat that. Well, you understand? Age. Health. Why do you need empty apartments? And Lena and I need to raise our son. Live somewhere. We have everything ahead of us. Unlike you. Unlike me, the woman asked. Mom. That's not what he meant. Lena quickly interjected. We're just worried about you. Yeah. Are you worried? Ellie got up and went to her room. I'll think about it. But there was nothing to think about. Everything was finally clear. The next day, the woman went to the lawyer again. We've decided. He smiled. Right. Let's get started. The paperwork took about a week. A notice of termination of the lease. Claims for unpaid rent. Demands to vacate the house and apartment. Everything was strictly legal. Beautiful and ruthless. Where else will they go? Ellie asked. Not your problem. The lawyer shrugged. Let adults figure things out on their own. How many years have you been helping them? A lot. Well, it's time for them to learn independence. That same day, Ellie met with a journalist, recommended by the school principal. The energetic young woman listened attentively to stories about school life, jotting down stories about difficult children, about teachers, about how education had changed over 4 decades. Ellie, this is a finished book. The journalist marveled. You have so much material, so many observations, and most importantly, you actually saved children. Who needs me? The retired janitor asked. Stop belittling yourself. You see people's souls better than many psychologists. And you have enough experience for 3. Ellie returned home in an excellent mood. For the first time in many years, she felt her own value and that her life had not been in vain. She planned to hand over the documents to her daughter and son-in-law tomorrow, exactly a week after their memorable birthday. Ellie's morning was perfectly ordinary. But inside, everything felt different. She ate a leisurely breakfast, tidied herself up, and pulled a folder of documents from her nightstand. The lawyer had done a good job. Everything was strictly legal, beautifully documented, and stamped. Lena and Andrew were sitting in the kitchen, whispering something. Seeing his mother-in-law, Andrew became wary. It was clear from his expression that he was preparing for another attack. "Ellie, we've decided here," he began. But she raised her hand. "No need. I decided for myself." The woman placed the documents on the table. "Here's a notice of termination of the lease. You have 1 month to vacate the 3-bedroom apartment." Lena turned pale. "Mom, what does this mean?" "It means I no longer intend to support adults." Ellie pulled out the next document. "Here's the rent arrears calculation for my aunt's apartment. You haven't paid me $8. 800 inches, 2 years. Ba yuan. 800, Andrew yelled. "Are you crazy? The market rent is $400 a month. That's $400 times 24 months. Can you count?" Lena grabbed the documents with trembling hands. "Mom, this is a joke. We're a family. What are you talking about?" Ellie chuckled. "Do you remember how this family laughed when your husband gave me a mop?" "You laughed too?" "Daughter. But it wasn't serious. It was very serious for me. For years I sacrificed everything for you. And what did I get? Contempt, and an attempt to send me to a retirement home." Andrew jumped up. "You've gone completely crazy. Where are we supposed to go? I don't have a job." "Not my problem. You're 40 years old. Your arms and legs are all intact. Go find a job. If you don't, you'll be collecting unemployment." "Mom." "Wait." Her daughter tried to take her hand, but Ellie pulled away. "Let's talk calmly. We can discuss everything." "There's nothing to discuss. The decision has been made." The woman laid out the last document. "And this is a demand to vacate the house in upstate New York. That same month, we'll be packing up." "What are you doing?" The son-in-law paced around the kitchen. "You're throwing a child out on the street. I'll leave Kevin here with me. If he wants to. Of course. He's on vacation soon. He'll help me tidy up the apartment." "Grandma." Her grandson appeared at the door. "What's going on here? Were you talking about me?" "Kevin," Ellie said softly. "Your parents are moving. And you can stay with me if you want. Your room will be here. And it will be more convenient to study at school." The boy looked at his parents. Then at his grandmother. Confused. "Can I think about it?" "Of course you can." "Mom, you understand that you're ruining the family." Lena whispered. "I'm not ruining it. It was already ruined. In a family. People respect each other and don't laugh in front of strangers." A month later, the apartment was empty. Lena and Andrew found a rented 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs. Kevin stayed with his grandmother, telling his parents he didn't want to change schools. In truth, Ellie suspected her grandson was simply fed up with his parents' constant squabbles. She was now the one paying the rent for his aunt's apartment. $400 a month. Added to her pension. Offered completely different opportunities. The woman's first act was to renovate her apartment. Then buy some decent clothes and join a senior fitness club. An article in the local newspaper was an unexpected success. She was invited to appear on a local television program. Then, a publisher offered to write a book of memoirs. Ellie agreed. It turned out that telling stories is no less interesting than experiencing them. "Grandma, are we going to the country house?" Kevin asked one day. "Do you want to?" "I do. Because my parents only planted potatoes there. And I wanted to get a dog." "We'll get a dog," Ellie promised. Lena rarely called. Her voice was thick with hurt and bewilderment. How could this mother act so cruelly? Andrew refused to answer the phone on principle. "Mom, maybe you should stop sulking," her daughter would say. "We're ready to apologize." "Lena, I'm not sulking. I'm living. For the first time in years. I'm living for myself. And you know what? I like it." And 6 months later, something unexpected happened. Kevin came home and said, "Grandma, Dad found a job. The salary at a good company is decent. And Mom says they're planning on buying an apartment." "That's good," Ellie said with genuine joy. "So my decision was the right one." "Why?" "Because sometimes people need a little push to start living independently." You see, that evening, sitting with a book in the renovated living room, Ellie reflected on justice. Not the kind of justice that demands punishment, but the kind that gives everyone a chance to become better. Lena and Andrew learned to rely on themselves. Kevin saw that his grandmother wasn't just a servant, but a living person entitled to respect. And for the first time, she herself felt what it meant to value herself. Justice triumphed. But most importantly, It opened up new opportunities for everyone.